Today's story is proof that the quietest person in the room might just be the one gathering the most ammunition. I never imagined my wedding day would double as the day I blew apart a marriage that had lasted 3 decades. But that's exactly what happened. Sometimes, life corners you in a way where silence is no longer an option. My name's Trevor. This all went down 6 months ago. I'm 31, work in IT security, and I just married the love of my life, Jessica. Her dad, Robert, has never been my biggest fan. From the very first time Jessica introduced us 3 years back, he made it clear he didn't think I was worthy of her. Robert runs a construction company and has that old-school mindset where a man's value is judged by the size of his bank account and how loudly he can dominate a conversation. I'm more the quiet type. I earn a decent living, but I'm not flashy, and I'd rather listen than talk. To him, that translated as weakness. The engagement period was rough. Every family dinner turned into a chance for Robert to take a jab at me. When I was your age, I was already building my empire, he'd boast. Or, men today are too soft, letting women call the shots. Jessica would try to defend me, but he'd just wave her off with a smug, "You'll get it when you're older, sweetheart." Wedding planning? Even worse. Robert insisted on covering all expenses, something I initially appreciated, until I realized it was really about controlling everything. He'd overrule our choices without asking, and whenever I pushed back, he'd throw out lines like, "The guy paying makes the calls, Trevor. Maybe one day you'll get that." What Robert didn't realize was that my job in cybersecurity had trained me to notice patterns and keep records. It's not paranoia, it's muscle memory. So when his habits started shifting about 8 months before the wedding, I paid attention. He'd vanish during family events for business calls that ran half an hour or more. He'd come back smelling faintly of perfume that definitely wasn't his wife Linda's. His phone lived face down on the table, and he'd get tense if anyone touched it. He was working late more often, taking business trips Linda seemed to know nothing about. Linda, Jessica's mom, is one of the kindest women I've ever met. She's been married to Robert for 32 years, raised 3 kids, and devoted her life to his business and ego. She deserved far better than whatever he was sneaking around doing. The tipping point came at our rehearsal dinner. Robert had been drinking and decided to give a father of the bride speech. Instead of celebrating Jessica, he spent 10 minutes lecturing about how marriage was a risky investment and how men had to be strong leaders. Then, staring me down, he said, "Trevor, I hope you prove me wrong tomorrow. I hope you grow a backbone and act like the man Jessica deserves. Honestly, I'm not convinced you're up for it." The room froze. Jessica looked horrified. Linda's face crumpled with embarrassment. I just nodded and replied, "Thanks for the advice, Robert. I'll keep it in mind." That night, I made my choice. 4 months, I'd been quietly compiling evidence of Robert's affair. Timestamp notes on suspicious behavior. Photos of him walking into hotels with a woman who wasn't Linda. Even an audio recording I'd accidentally gotten when his phone but dialed me mid-intimate conversation. I hadn't intended to use it. I'm not the type to blow up families for revenge. But Robert had crossed a line, humiliating me publicly, questioning my worth as a man, all while betraying his own wife. The wedding itself was beautiful. Jessica was radiant, the venue was perfect, and everything flowed smoothly until the reception. Robert had insisted on giving another speech at dinner. I already knew how it would go. I wasn't wrong. He raised his champagne and launched into yet another lecture on marriage, commitment, and what it takes to be a real man. "Marriage is sacred," he declared, locking eyes with me. "It demands honesty, loyalty, and strength. I hope my new son-in-law truly understands that." The hypocrisy was suffocating. Here was a man talking about loyalty while sneaking around, preaching honesty while living a lie, and calling for strength while too weak to honor his own vows. So I stood up. "Robert, thank you for those words on marriage and loyalty. I have something I'd like to share with everyone too." I pulled out my phone, connected it to the venue's speakers and said, "I think everyone should hear what a faithful marriage really sounds like." The audio was crystal clear. Robert's unmistakable voice, speaking to his mistress about leaving Linda, about how exhausting it was to keep up the facade, about how he couldn't wait to be free. The woman's voice chimed in about their hotel rooms, their plans, their secret life. The room went dead silent. Linda went pale. Jessica gripped my arm, confused. Robert stood frozen as his own voice spilled every intimate detail of his affair, and his plans to trade Linda for a younger woman. I let it play for about 30 seconds, then stopped it. "Robert, you told me to grow a backbone. I think I just did." The fallout was immediate and brutal. Linda stood up without a word. Linda stood up from the table and quietly walked out of the reception. Jessica's brothers and sisters followed right behind her. Within 10 minutes, nearly half the guests had left. Robert started to speak, but I simply raised my hand to stop him. "I've got hours of this," I said in a low voice, meant only for the nearby tables. "Phone logs, photos, hotel receipts, everything. You want to challenge my strength? You want to stand here and lecture me about being a man? Real men don't cheat on their wives. Real men don't humiliate their own family. Real men take ownership of their actions. Robert said nothing else. He left. The celebration limped on, but the atmosphere had shifted. Some guests gave me nods of support. Others seemed unsettled by what they'd just witnessed. Jessica was caught between being furious that I had shattered the reception and horrified by what her father had been doing to her mother. The weeks that followed were messy. Linda filed for divorce almost immediately. With the evidence I'd gathered, the process was fast and devastating for Robert. Half of his clients, most of them family friends loyal to Linda, cut ties with him. His reputation in their tight-knit community collapsed. Jessica and I went to counseling to untangle the fallout. She understood my reasons but wrestled with the timing and the fact that I had exposed it so publicly. It took months of raw, honest conversations for us to rebuild trust and find our footing again. Robert lost it all: his marriage, his children's respect, his standing in the business world, and much of what he owned in the divorce. Linda got the house, half the business, and the unwavering support of the people who mattered most in their circle. As for me, that day taught me something I wish I'd realized sooner. For years, Robert's constant jabs had made me doubt myself, made me wonder if maybe he was right, that I was somehow lacking. But real strength isn't about talking the loudest, having the biggest paycheck, or forcing others to bend to your will. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable. It's about protecting the people you love, even if it costs you dearly. It's about having the guts to tell the truth when everyone else is content to live in a lie. Robert called me weak. But weak men don't spend months gathering proof. Weak men don't face down their accusers. Weak men don't put everything on the line to defend someone who's been wronged. Yes, I'm quiet. Yes, I'd rather listen than talk. But I am not weak. Today, Jessica and I are stronger than we were on our wedding day. We've learned to communicate better, to have each other's backs when things get hard, and to stand side by side against anyone trying to tear us apart. Linda's doing well. She's seeing someone new, a genuinely kind man who treats her with the respect she always deserved. She thanked me for giving her the proof she needed to finally walk away from a marriage that had long since become a lie. People often mistake kindness for weakness, silence for surrender, and patience for fear. Robert made that mistake about me, and it cost him everything he'd built in 30 years. I don't regret what I did that day. I regret that it had to happen at my wedding. I regret the pain it caused Jessica. But I don't regret exposing the truth. Some secrets are far too destructive to hide, especially when they're being used to hurt innocent people. If you're dealing with family who try to break you down, document everything. Trust your gut. And remember, real strength sometimes means being willing to burn bridges that were already toxic. Robert taught me a lesson, though not the one he thought he was teaching. He showed me that the loudest voice in the room isn't always the strongest, and that the person demanding respect is often the one who deserves it the least. That's my story. Tell me in the comments, did I go too far, or was Robert's public humiliation exactly what he had coming? See you in the next one.